Hello everyone and welcome to Bear News as we take a look at the news of the week, and there has been a lot as of late. You know what, it's in the morning, I call this morning news with Bear. Following on from Microsoft's announcement surrounding Activision Blizzard, we now see that Sony has made their move. And although this is a rather small scale purchase by comparison at $3.6 billion, by buying Destiny, Sony has shown their hand, potentially in terms of Spartacus. Now I've gone on about this a fair bit because I'm genuinely intrigued to see what Sony's going to do with their new streaming service if it does ever actually come into existence, but the reason I bring this up is that we have had note from Sony's statement of seeking employment that they are looking for someone to head multimedia entertainment within their company, with the statement that there will be potentially TV series down the line. And with the acquisition of Bungie, Sony will have access to Destiny and all of the lore that comes with it. Not to mention this acts as a rather nice backhand to Microsoft, given how Bungie were the developers of Halo and therefore a prime part of the Microsoft lineage, only to go over to the enemy and join Sony, bringing with them the potential for a TV series based within the Destiny universe. One of the most expansive, lore-ridden universes there is in the terms of gaming, at least in 2022. Now all of this comes about with a statement from Jim Ryan, the president and chief executive of Sony Interactive Entertainment. They understand that Bungie's community is vital to the studio and look forward to supporting them as they remain independent. There has been the announcement both from SIE and from Bungie themselves stating that they will retain their independence from the larger corporation, ensuring that Bungie will continue to provide games and support the communities separate from the SIE trademark, and more importantly, creative control. With the aim of providing a TV series, and with those game-based TV series doing better and better, though Witcher 2 was a little bit of a disappointment, we can see that there is a genuine want for this sort of thing moving forward. So it's a good one to keep our eye on, particularly as I cannot see this being the end of Sony's response to the Microsoft acquisition. Given how Microsoft had spent around the $70-odd billion mark, this is kind of a drop in the water by Sony with only $3.6 billion and acquiring only one company. Surely this shan't be the end. I'll have to wait and see what else becomes brought to bear. But of course, we cannot have all those nice things without a little something to tarnish it. Not only have we seen the suggestions that Sony intends to create some kind of TV series, we also hear from them that Sony intends to launch more than 10 live service games by 2026. Of course, given the history of Destiny, and in particular Destiny 2, Bungie has already proven that they are more than capable of creating these live service titles, drawing into question just why Sony would actually acquire Bungie while still providing them independence, potentially just as a method of mining them for information onto how to make a successful live service game, considering that games as a service have proven to be extremely lucrative when done correctly. Though I state very clearly here that one of the reasons I rather like the Sony PlayStation license is that they'd, by and large, avoided such things. Their greatest titles, after all, the God of War series, The Last of Us, Horizon, and Uncharted, have absolutely nothing to do, at least for now, with live service. Now all this comes from the Sony Executive Deputy President and CFO, Hiroki Totoki, where during an investor presentation stated that they will also be incorporating into the Sony group the expertise and technologies that Bungie has developed in the live game service space, with the intention to utilize these strengths when developing game IP at PlayStation Studios as they expand into the live game service areas. And I certainly can't deny that games such as Horizon do give the potential for that live service, or to be honest, MMO system to exist. Given the success of the prior story-focused titles, it does feel like Sony is almost nerfing themselves with this one, as although it could potentially be rather lucrative, the reason that they've managed to build such high esteem within the gaming community as of late has been down to the fact that their games are damn good. They have a start and a middle. By the time you hit the end, you have a genuine emotional investment in what's happened and are left satisfied, predominantly, with your time playing. And given that we have seen that Naughty Dog working on a multiplayer follow-up for The Last of Us 2, Paddington Save Us All, the future of gaming, already tarnished by NFTs, is already looking a little less optimistic. But as if that wasn't a fail enough for Microsoft, the Xbox Game Pass will be losing some of their games moving forward. Now obviously we could do this as a month-by-month system, looking at what's being brought on and what's being removed from their subscription service, but it would take too long and honestly I'm not that interested. What is key to note though is the loss of certain specific games, in particular Final Fantasy and The Medium, not to mention Control and Code Vein, given their close relation with the Sony console. Microsoft is losing access to certain games, and Sony's starting to get a little bit of an upper hand without actually doing anything. But I bring this up mostly for the simple fact that, as it is a subscription-based system, and as I've said many times before, I'm always intrigued what other people think, as subscription-based gaming really does not sit well with me. And the idea that a game could no longer be accessed for no fault of your own, even if you continue to pay for your subscription, simply because some paperwork in the background has now meant that that game is removed from the service, means you've lost a lot of time, a lot of effort, and may even lose some money in having to buy that game separately should you ever wish to complete it. But with those losses, we can of course also see new games coming in, with the majority of people looking towards Crossfire X being the next big game to be released on Game Pass. Personally, I would just like to take this opportunity to do a little support for The Edge of Eternity, a nice little indie game coming out over onto console that had been released on PC a fair while ago and in early access for even longer than that. But something that can never happen with a subscription service, with the games only becoming available thanks to the online system, removing denial of access and allowing people to play all at a specific time and all automated. If we look over at Techland, we can see that Dying Light 2 has apparently already made its release, if somewhat unintentionally. It appears that with Dying Light 2, some of the game's retail versions have been made available to the market, though not by the company themselves, with the official release date being the 4th of February, meaning at the time of recording, there's 2 days left. Like, that's it, just wait 2 days. The company themselves are actually having to make the statement, fellow survivors, we see that some of you got an access to the retail copies of Dying Light 2 before the release date. It's this Friday, only 3 days left. Studio wrote, we understand you want to start exploring the city ASAP, and we couldn't be happier. That being said, we kindly ask you to wait until February 4th, as by that time you'll also get access to all improvements and fixes we've implemented within the last weeks and will introduce with the day 1 patch. That's the way to experience Dying Light 2, the way it's meant to be played. What's important about this is we now know that the game has been made and released and is already due to be patched. Yes, the game on release will actually be different to the game they have created and sent for distribution. And although I don't support the leaking and releasing of games prior to the official release date, I am genuinely intrigued to know what the differences are between the pre-day 1 patch release and even within those that haven't received the last few weeks series of improvements and fixes that have been applied by the company. Mostly as I'm kind of intrigued to see exactly how much can be done via these patches and updates in such a short period of time. It could be a great opportunity as well for anyone who has them, though I would of course never support this, to start showing off exactly what these games and companies are doing when they have those day 1 patches. Since the company is requesting that players can contain themselves until Friday, players are urging the studio to simply release the game now. The reason being that they wonder how reviewers and influencers are expected to present Dying Light the way it's meant to be played if they don't have access to the day 1 patch themselves. Surely the game is being reviewed and shown off in the state that is pre-patch, and therefore players will be seeing the exact same game as what is being reviewed for it, as well as drawing into question the validity of reviewers and what they do, because if the reviewers do not have the day 1 patch installed, then surely by Techland's own definition, they were not able to review the true experience. With the modern age of digital releases and huge amounts of emphasis placed upon influencers and YouTubers and content creators all around the world, basically, yeah, it's starting to draw into question the entire way that games are being reviewed, released, and considered and promoted across the board. And I'll leave us on this note with that this came from PC Gamer in an article written by Andy Chalk. And they have stated that they have reached out to Techland for clarity on this point, so do make sure to have a look back and check over what they release in the coming days to see if they do have any response from Techland declaring their official position. But on the note of new games and their release, we can't stop there. We have a lot more to go through, and the aim is to keep this nice and short, so apologies for going over these stories rather quickly. For of course, over the past few days, we have seen announcements regarding new Star Wars games coming into fruition. Not to mention the fact that some of these Star Wars games, looking over towards LEGO Star Wars, impressive though it may be that they've managed to create a game covering 9 different movies, the manner in which it's been brought about will somewhat need to be brought into question, as the accusations of crunch, ever present in the gaming industry, been drawn up once more for this one. But just what do we have to look forward to then? Well, we have LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, a neat little free-to-play team-based multiplayer coming out for Nintendo Switch and mobile. Cool. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order 2, the continuation of the highly successful Fallen Order 1, a remake of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, though unfortunately no suggestion that we'll be seeing a number 3 in the series coming anytime soon. And we say this because in fact we have entirely new series coming out, with a Star Wars FPS from Respawn, taking inspiration from the classic Dark Forces 1 and 2, a Ubisoft open world Star Wars, which, let's face it, we've played Ubisoft open world games before, just picture that but with Star Wars and probably with a few galaxies to move between, so well I guess you won't have a boat, but you'll have a spaceships, that's kind of the same thing. Star Wars Eclipse, a game being created by the studio behind debatably games? Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, and Detroit Become Human. They're kind of interactive stories, but still, it's based in Star Wars, so that definitely could be worth a butch. If for no other reason than if this is considered canon, it could give us some nice background story or continuation to the now debunked larger world of Star Wars. But who knows, maybe Disney will reinstate the legends and we'll see some continuation with Eclipse. And finally, a Star Wars strategy game coming from Respawn and Bit Reactor. Well, Respawn is a known entity, but Bit Reactor is a newly formed studio founded by former Firaxis Games lead developers who came from the acclaimed XCOM series. In charge is Greg Forster, apologies I cannot pronounce that, the art director of XCOM 2 and Enemy Unknown, and Bit Reactor will be leading the development of the game with Respawn simply producing it. Not only given the success of XCOM being a rather accessible turn-based strategy game, but also we're getting some more Star Wars continuation through it, so this will certainly be one to look forward to, if for no other reason to see, will they put this in the olden days and have us playing clones versus androids? Or will this be in the more modern times where we'll have First Order? Who are the bad guys in the new Star Wars? Go on, well I just asked, and neither of us can remember who the bad guys in the new ones are, but them versus rebel-ish people. Or from the good old days of rebels versus stormtroopers. Will the Empire succeed? We'll have to wait and see. But with that, let's edit this down and hope you enjoyed Bear News in the morning, and as always, until next time, peace out. Well, I can just remember it's Snoke because I called him Snook and someone had a go at me.